it is really easy to get sidetracked. But if you kind of see this as, no, like this is what I really want to do, this is what I want to put my money towards because this will help me long term, then I think it's a lot easier to stay motivated.
Hello and welcome to Practical Personal Finance, where you get the information you need to understand and succeed with money. I'm Andrew Shear, and today I'll be joined by Andrea for a debt-free story. Andrea is a clinical trial specialist from the Kansas side of Kansas City. She graduated from the University of Kansas, where she received a bachelor's degree in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology. Andrea is currently working on a COVID study, and she loves to see how her work makes an impact on the lives of others. A fun fact about Andrea is that she's the second oldest of 5 siblings. She's got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And now, without any further delay, here's my conversation with Andrea. Andrea, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today and share your debt-free story with all of us. Let's start out with the question on everyone's mind. How much did you pay off, and how long did it take you to do it?
Yeah, so I paid off $29,582 in about 13 months, a little less than 13 months, so around a year to a year and a month.
Awesome, and I love how exact you are with that amount. What kind of debt was it?
So about 1/3 of it was student loans, and about 2/3 of it was a car loan.
So what is it that got you started on this debt-free journey?
So I wanted to pay off my student loans, from when I graduated. And then right after I graduated, I was like, I need a new car. And so I ended up buying a brand new car. And honestly, I really didn't enjoy it as much as my crappy cash car because, I felt like it was a liability. I owed this money on it. If I crashed it, what was going to happen? What would happen? And there was a guy at my work that was really into Dave Ramsey, and he was telling me about all this money he paid off on his car, and I was like, I want to do that too. So I started listening to the Dave Ramsey podcast, and then that's kind of what got me started on it. And I was like, okay, let's go and do this and try to pay off everything as fast as possible.
That's what got me started too originally, listening to that Dave Ramsey podcast. So what do you do for a living, and how much do you earn per year on average?
Yeah, so I work in clinical drug research. I graduated, like I said, I'm 23, so graduated just a year ago, but I make $48,000 a year, and I'm a clinical trial specialist. Basically, I work kind of in the background regulatory stuff with approving new drugs.
Cool. And what did your income look like at the beginning of your debt-free journey versus now at the end? Did you see an increase?
So I didn't through my main job, but I did do some side hustles that increased my income a little bit. So I probably made, by the end of 2020, somewhere 50, 52, but that was mainly through side hustles.
Take me through what your monthly budget looks like. What are some of your biggest line items, and how much are you spending in those areas?
Yeah, so my budget would be, the biggest thing would be rent. Rent is about $600 a month. I live with roommates, so it's fairly cheap. And then I would say I've got car insurance, that's maybe $120, and then groceries, it kind of depends, but I try to keep it under somewhere around $150 to $200. And then especially lately I've been eating out more and stuff now that I'm debt free, but I would leave about $100 to $150 just to do fun things with friends, because I felt like I needed to at least spend a little bit of money there just to be able to maintain connections with people, especially with COVID. There's not a lot of chances to go out anyway. So if people would ask me to go out, because I was working from home, so I wouldn't see anybody if I wasn't at least willing to spend a little bit of money on food. But that would be the main things. I also, had a phone bill, which is about $35, and I had Spotify because I would listen to that at work a lot. So that was $10. But really my base expenses were very low during that time.
Cool. So I know you mentioned groceries being $150 to $200 per month. What are you doing to keep your grocery bill so low? Because that's a really low number.
Yeah, so I would just basically meal prep chicken and rice with vegetables and enjoy doing that, but also make tacos. I really like Mexican food, and Mexican food is super cheap to make. So you just get some refried beans, tortillas, nacho cheese, that kind of stuff. Maybe not always the healthiest food, but Mexican food tends to be really cheap, and it's really good. At least I really like it. So
Awesome. And I know you mentioned you had a pretty reasonable rent situation because you're living with roommates. So, how many roommates are you living with, and how did you originally connect with these roommates and make sure they'd be a good fit to live with?
Yeah, so right now I just have one roommate, but when I actually started, I had two, one of which was my boyfriend, and the other was a friend of ours that we like knew from college, and he was like moving to the same city that we were moving to for his job. So we ended up like he really needed a roommate because he was trying to save for a house down payment. We're like, okay, yeah, we'll room with you. So that's how I met him. And then now I live with my sister, and so like obviously we know each other from that, and I know she's a good roommate.
You mentioned having this car loan that you got paid off. So, tell me a little bit more about your transportation situation.
So right now, actually, I work from home. Been working from home since last March, and so my transportation situation is really that I don't need my car nearly as much as I thought I did when I got it. But I have a 2019 Honda Civic, and before that, I had a really old 2005 Pontiac Sunfire. But I wanted something nicer, I guess. Now, I paid off my debt, and I've got this cash car. So.
What would you say was the most difficult part about paying off all of your debts?
I think just like staying motivated and staying on it because you start like you get your paycheck and you're like, do I really want to put this towards debt again? Like, you kind of want to just be like, no, I want to get this or that. And, your stuff kind of, I don't know, just after a while it can be like tiring or like, no, I just want to like go on this vacation or do this thing instead of just paying it down until you can get it done.
Awesome. And what have you learned about yourself from going through this process?
I think just that I can be really self motivated and stick to something, like even if it is difficult, um, and that I can like I don't know, I guess just like personal responsibility, like being able to handle your own problems and be able to take control of your money and like stick to a budget, those kinds of things, just like self discipline.
If you had to choose just one thing, what would you say is the key to getting out of debt?
I would say I think that you just really have to see debt as a bad thing and see it as something that you want to work to like pay off. You can't just be happy with being in debt because if you are, you won't really be motivated to change your situation. You won't see it as a bad thing. And so it is really easy to get sidetracked. But if you kind of see this as, no, like this is what I really want to do, this is what I want to put my money towards because this will help me long term, then I think it's a lot easier to stay motivated.
Earlier, you mentioned having a side hustle that you use to boost your income a little bit. Tell me about that side hustle.
So the biggest thing I did actually was I was a guinea pig basically in a COVID vaccine study. And so I got paid for that. And then I also on Reddit there's a subreddit called r/beer money and you can basically just do like really like easy things or they're kind of like tedious but just like tedious but like pretty easy tasks to make money. And then I also did DoorDash a little bit.
Neat. And I assume it was kind of through your job that you heard about this COVID vaccine trial.
Yeah, it wasn't actually my employer, but like I kind of know about that world and I knew that they would be asking for those. And so I was like, let's see if they have some because like my job, they're always putting out ads, but they're generally at my work, it's a lot of times like cancer drugs and stuff that's like really like severe. And I was like, well, I don't want to take a risk on that. But with the COVID vaccine, I'm like, well, vaccines are pretty safe. And there was another company that I knew of from my job and I signed up and they called me. So.
Do you have any recommendations on strategies for cutting expenses?
I would definitely say food is probably like the biggest thing that I have trouble with. So I think meal prepping at the beginning of the week. And then if you, I mean, a lot of people, like, especially on the Dave Ramsey podcast, and say that they've lost weight during the time because they're not spending as much money on food. But I think also keeping those few little things that like maybe aren't expensive, but they're like nice. Like you just get some cookies and stuff. And you're like, okay, like, don't eat out today and have my cookies later. To kind of keep you motivated.
How does it feel to be out from under the burden of your car loan and your student loans?
It feels great. I feel like I can do anything and I don't feel like as much like I feel like, if I was given a job offer somewhere else, like I could take it or take more risks on where I want to live, what I want to do, those kinds of things because I don't have nearly as high like monthly expenses because I don't have student loans and car loan to worry about.
That's a big part of it. It's really liberating to take those risks that you wouldn't otherwise be able to if you still had debt. Are you doing anything special or buying yourself something cool to celebrate your debt freedom?
Yeah, so I'm gonna buy a new phone because I've had the same phone for like a ton of years. It's an iPhone 6, so I'm gonna get upgrade my phone finally.
That's an awesome reward. Last but not least, if you could go back to the beginning of your debt free journey and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
I think just like that it's worth it. Like it's gonna kind of be hard sometimes, but just stick through it and get um, you know, continue to work on it and it'll go there. Like you'll progress and you'll actually be able to do it. It's not impossible.
I want to thank my friend Andrea for taking the time to tell me her debt free story. I think it's just amazing how she was able to get both her car and her student loans paid off at such a young age. I have a feeling she is going to have a pretty substantial net worth a few decades from now. Have you recently become debt free? Would you like to share your story and help inspire others? Leave a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram. If you enjoyed Andrea's story, maybe you'll like Robert's. Click right here to learn how he paid off over $90,000 in student loans as a freelance musician. And if you'd like to show your support for my channel, click right here to subscribe. As always, thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Shear, and I'll see you next time.